All right, welcome in. We'll go ahead and get started here. Welcome to our IntelliCredit Coffee Talk in Q4 2025. I'm David Littleton, Director of Data Analytics and Product Management at IntelliCredit. I manage everything to do with the IntelliCredit products, which are the Portfolio Analyzer, which we'll discuss today, as well as our review tool where banks and credit unions can do loan review using our tool as well. Um, so Throughout this coffee talk, we have a mix in the participants here of clients and non-clients. And so throughout the meeting, I can field any sort of question in regard to, how to use the tool or something about our process, whatever it may be. Don't think that your question is too niche or too out there. Happy to engage in any way with the chat throughout the session today. So now we have a few polling questions for you that I'll pop up here. The first question should be on your screen now. Which tools are you primarily using today for your loan portfolio analysis? All right, very interesting results. We have most respondents using their simple core system reporting extracts, and then 27% using Excel, and then 27% as well using some sort of software platform that may be IntelliCredit, that may be a different platform. It's good that no one said none, so that's a positive result there. So the next question here um, is, we'll go ahead and launch it, is what board and management reports are the most valuable to your institution? So this is a free type answer, and this is really helpful for myself and IntelliCredit broadly, because we're always thinking about new ways to integrate important critical reports in an automated fashion for all of our clients and all of our new clients. This is good perspective to get from all of you. And so the responses here, because it's long form, I won't be able to post them live, but they'll be made available post webinar here. So I'll give just another second for answers to this question. Okay, and ending now. Okey-doke. And next one, just a couple more here. What would you like to report on but find challenging to do today using whichever process for portfolio monitoring, tracking, reporting that you currently have implemented? And I'll give about 15 more seconds here or so, make sure everyone can get their answers in. And thank you for participating in these. Very much appreciated. Okay, go ahead and end this one. And the very last question here is going to be, would you like to schedule a call to discuss your portfolio needs? This is another question we'll follow up with at the end of the call. It may be more pertinent at that point in time, but always like to give as many opportunities as possible. Give just another 5 or 10 seconds here. Thank you for everyone. Okay, and ending this one. All right, so very much appreciate all the participation on our polling questions. We'll have one more polling question at the very end of the session today. So kind of agenda for this session is I'm going to go over a couple of regulatory items that our team at IntelliCredit has been hearing from regulators and the various banks we work with. We work with, hundreds of community institutions across the nation. And so we kind of have a good pulse on the things that we're hearing, especially in regard to regulatory pressures and comments made by regulators and such, and how that's shifting. And then I'll get into some best practices and some fundamental value adds of the IntelliCredit portfolio analysis tool and a live demo. And then we'll close out at the end there. So here's a slide that's kind of highlighting some of those regulatory changes that we're seeing. Really, it boils down to we're seeing a heightened focus on CRE portfolios. There's been a lot of growth in community banking across the CRE types and asset classes, and focusing in on the analysis and monitoring of those portfolios and the potential growth that an institution may be seeing in those portfolios, and tracking that not only by owner occupied, non-owner occupied, but also by asset class and by industry and so forth, and getting pretty granular and understanding how to segment that CRE portfolio. So that's our regulatory focus. So now I'm going to highlight some capabilities of IntelliCredit and then focus on the outcomes that delivers. So fundamentally, the portfolio analyzer, which I'll show here in a moment, I know some people on the call are familiar with this, is it gives better access to your loan portfolio data. Community bankers, I find, have a very good intuition for their portfolio, but oftentimes lack the level of access to data and access to visualizations and reports that communicate the things that they know intuitively about their portfolio. And IntelliCredit, as I'll demonstrate in a moment, gives fantastic access to not only points in time of data, but data over a period of time showing trends, and empowers bankers to visualize and communicate the narrative and things they know about their portfolio, like I said, intuitively. Then we have the ability to easily segment the portfolio, as I mentioned, particularly with CRE loans. You can take any data point that's being collected or provided about your portfolio and segment based on that data or mix of data points, as well as the ability to add new data points within IntelliCredit. It just allows you to easily isolate and identify specific areas of the portfolio that you want to build a report or create a narrative or just educate yourself around as things are changing in the portfolio. And then we get into early warning trends. When you upload data, you can see how things are shifting at the earliest possible moment. And again, that ties into the access to data and being able to see things early and having that constant access to the data. But what that really leads to is it builds in proactive credit risk management, and it kind of automates that process and makes the tracking of the portfolio from point in time to point in time, from month to month to month, something that becomes habitual and natural and just part of the everyday effortless process at the bank for your credit risk management. And then very lastly, packaging together reports and regulator packages is something that is extremely easy in IntelliCredit, and this just allows you to confidently address board and regulator needs and questions. Just a couple days ago, I had a newer client reach out to me and say, "Hey, I have an emergency. Regulator wants to know not only my relationship information and data points regarding each relationship, but wants to see the borrower detail underneath each of those." And that individual may even be on this webinar, not sure. But we were able to hop on a call and just very quickly, and within probably 30 seconds, say, yes, this is how you can show the borrower detail underneath the relationship detail, and even the note detail underneath that, should you want to. So, and that just obviously gave them quite a bit of confidence in going back to the regulator and saying, "Hey, here, I turned around this report for you that you asked me for very, very quickly." So when we talk about IntelliCredit and even software solutions in the banking industry or just in general, oftentimes they can be difficult to implement. It can take a long time to implement. With IntelliCredit, it is extremely simple and easy. So you send us a loan data file. So that may be a file that you're already extracting regularly from your core system. It's just a simple Excel formatted loan data file. Then we map that into our system, and then we then you're up and ready to go, and we have a training, and that's it. And it's a process that can take, as little as a couple days or even potentially quicker than that. It's really a simple process, and maintaining the tool is also extremely simple. It's just the upload of the file, once a month or however often you would like to upload your loan data to get the analysis on it. So I'll talk more about our free trial. So we want to offer this at the outset. We're giving a free trial of this tool for 3 months where you can send us your data. We'll give you training, support, assist you with building reports that you need, help you automate all of that, help you learn more about your portfolio and the data that you're providing. And if we don't demonstrate high value in 3 months, then you can walk away and part as friends, and no worries there. But it's something that we think is important to offer to the community banking space to put trust in our clients to know that if you engage with us, we'll prove it to you before you make any sort of commitment. And we have tons of great references. Nate Oval from the Bank of Elk River is one that gave us this quote. He says, "The more I try different things, the more value I see and can derive from the tool. You can't break it. You should mess around, get dirty with your data, and you find things that you need to get fixed, etc." And we don't have a client on this coffee talk today, and that was intentional. I think our last 8 or so all had clients on them. So feel free to go back and watch any of those to see further client feedback. But we have we're very proud of our list of clients, very happy clients. So when you get in the tool from day one, before you do any work to build reports that you may need, what can you see immediately? And so that's what I'm going to show in a demo here. So here we have our fictitious institution, Pawnee Community Financial, and we're looking at a collection of reports that we call a template. So this is called the standard reports here. And this is a template. And so each template has a list of pages. So this standard reports template is the template that every institution gets from day one. And so this is going to cover some of the key credit risk management focused reporting that IntelliCredit finds most useful. So loan quality metrics, concentration reporting around percentage of capital within your various strata of the portfolio, top borrowers and top relationships, risk grade distributions and risk grade migrations, past due distribution, where you can see your past due balances, non-pass loans, delinquent loans, pricing for risk in the portfolio, where we show your weighted average interest rate within each risk rating and each call code, vintage analysis, and upcoming maturities. And then I skipped over the first one, this credit overview here. So this page here is a page that gives you the ability to see the portfolio at a particular point in time, or actually 2 particular points in time, and then calculate the change that's happening between those two periods. So like I described earlier, is when you upload a new data set, the data sets are going to choose the most recent 2 by default. And so as soon as you upload new data, say you upload 11/30 data on December 1st, the first thing you'll be able to see is what's changing in the portfolio here. So I can see the loan count changing, the total balance changing, the average loan size changing, the weighted average rate, the weighted average risk grade changing, the balances in the non-pass and non-accrual categories, and the changes in delinquencies. And then not only throughout this table can I see the individual metrics of the total value at a point in time and the total value at the prior point in time, but I also can drill into the change value, and I can click a window that shows me the exact breakdown of how I got to that number that I clicked on. So in this case, we saw a $2 million increase in, I think it was special mention loans, or it was classified loans, excuse me. And that is being driven by 2 loans that were added, net of 1 loan that was upgraded out of classified. And that's how we got to that bottom line figure that I originally clicked on of $2 million. Then I see the detail of which loans those are that are impacting that change from the 2 that were added and the loan that was upgraded out of classified as well. So that's kind of the basic set of reports that, like I mentioned, you get from day one in the tool. And then you can always hit generate report on these and then download this report. And this will download a nice, polished, very attractive PDF deliverable report about the portfolio. So if I open this up, I can scroll through this, and this is converting all of those visualizations that we were just looking at, including any minor or major, any sort of adjustment that I may have made would be reflected in this export as well. And so obviously you can take this and use it for various purposes outside of IntelliCredit. Now, beyond these standard reports, you of course have the ability to build your own templates. So if I click this standard reports dropdown, I can see here's the IntelliCredit template, but I have about 6 templates that I've created that are a collection of different report pages. So here we have a report, and many of these actually I lifted from actual reports and this in a similar format of ones that I've seen clients create. So this portfolio synopsis takes some key metrics. These are KPIs more or less that this bank identified from loan count, total balance outstanding, exposure, LTV, and they had this filtered down to owner-occupied CRE. So these filters, you can create custom filters to segment the portfolio. So if I'm actually going to disable this filter. So now this is showing the total portfolio metrics across these various KPIs. So LTV, or weighted average LTV in the portfolio, weighted average rate, term remaining, days past due, weighted average risk rating as well. And so what I can do just to illustrate some of the customizability of all of this. So I could take this report and let's say I wanted to show, yes, the total portfolio, but I'm going to duplicate this report and get the same one down below. But I want to show this one just for my non-owner occupied CRE. Now I'm showing the same exact formatted report, but segmented down to the 155 as of 6/30 loans and the metrics associated with those of just my owner-occupied CRE portfolio. I could duplicate it again down at the bottom and then segment the portfolio again. Choose a different filter. Now I'll choose owner-occupied CRE, right? And here are the 30 loans. I could also do 30 plus days past due and see how many loans are past due as of 30 days. And that's a trend over the selected period of time. So lots of ways that you can, in a very quick and efficient fashion, show various metrics about the portfolio that you find important. Then here's one that shows top relationships. And so as I described earlier, the call where I had with a client 2 days ago, not a fictitious story, where he said, yes, we have the relationship detail here, but I need to understand the borrower detail underneath each relationship. And we had the exact solution where in this selection of this dropdown, you can choose which data point you want these rows to be populated by. So you could choose FFIC code, for example, here. But this is showing obviously relationship. But what I can do is I can add multiple options to this dropdown. So I could say, show borrower underneath this and then right click, expand all. And now I'm showing the full borrower detail underneath each relationship. And then taking it one step further, you could even, if you wanted to, show note number, expand all of that down, expand all this down. And now we're showing the total relationship metrics, the borrower metrics, and then each loan's impact on all of those as well. So getting from a very broad report and then drilling into something much more detailed took me all but a couple clicks, a couple seconds. Then we get into some more examples. So this is a pricing for risk table that is showing pricing and weighted average rate per loan officer within each risk category. And then there's a filter that's being applied that's identifying only newly originated loans. So this is, if I open up the details of this filter, this is identifying loans that are, the origination date is within the previous 180 days. And you could define this new origination as whatever you see fit. But so this is the weighted average pricing per loan officer within each risk rating only in the last 6 or so months. So that's, tells a certain story about the pricing that's happening in the portfolio. Now that could be due to something with industries or FFIC codes, because that can obviously impact pricing. So I could add this as a second option, just like I did with the borrower and the relationship detail, and see the breakdown for each loan officer, not only in total, but also within each product type as well, and see if there are any irregularities regarding a particular product type. So again, lots of ways that you can see the data, stratify the data, understand the data in a way that is easy to interact with and gives you the ability to learn about the portfolio, but also communicate things that you know about the portfolio more effectively. Now, if I were to, let's say I had a hypothetical question where I wanted to see how the balances in the portfolio by, let's say, FFIC code, just to keep it simple. Let's say I wanted to know how that has changed over the past, let's say, like 3 or 4 periods or 3 or 4 quarters. So I could add a page here. And let me just demonstrate how easy this is. I can add a chart to this page. I'm going to add what we call an analytics table. And now I have FFIEC code already selected here. I could choose anything else here. I could choose, industries or whatever, but I'll use FFIEC codes. And so then I'm going to go into these settings, and this is something we would do a detailed training on. But let's say I wanted to do balance and then display the date using this command here. So now I'm going to say, show me the balance and sum together the balance, but then allow me to select the dates that I would like to do, and then show me the rate of change in this between these columns. And then I'm going to hit save. And now we have, if I go to display this, now we're looking at over the previous how many periods did I select? 4 periods or 5 periods, what the balance was at each of those periods, as well as what the degree of change was as well. And I could do this, I could switch this around. I could duplicate this and then say the first one I want to show the changes by FFIC code. Next one I want to show changes by loan officer. How has each loan officer's portfolio changed in size over the previous period? Now, and that's just balance. You could do this based on any data point available, weighted average rate, weighted average risk rating, whatever it may be. You can always choose whatever you want and get to that answer of what's changing in the portfolio. And then these drill downs work in the same exact way as the credit overview change drill downs, where if I click on this 11%, it's going to show me a breakdown of what's impacting that change that we just looked at. So here are the 6 loans added for this loan officer in the portfolio. This loan officer had its 62 that were removed, actually. Fairly high number there. And that's why we're seeing this bottom line figure here of that negative change that we just looked at. So that's just to keep it short in the demo. Actually, I do see a chat here. Oh, well, that was actually a question we just answered. So yeah, thanks for the question. But so that's all I have for the demo. Unless there are additional questions, I can dive into anything that you would like to. But from here, I will go back to the PowerPoint here. And so just summarizing some of those day one immediate value options, some of the most popular reports based on the statistics that we collect about users and exports and such is the top borrowers and relationships. Obviously, a very critical report for community financial institutions. The period comparison from that credit overview page that allows you to see what's new in the portfolio. When we upload new data, when we have new data from the core system, what's changed? That period comparison there. The regulatory capital concentrations, something that is, over the last 2 or 3 years become very significant for regulators, and I mean it always has been, but had more of a focus on it in the last 2 or 3 years. Risk grade migrations, and then upcoming maturities of understanding which loans are upcoming for maturity, what portion of my portfolio is coming up for maturity in the next 30, 60, 90 days. As I probably only showed very briefly, but as is shown in the standard report upcoming maturities table here, where you can show, I'm going to select a different date and show, 30, 90 year, what's coming up for maturity, and then what are the list of those loans in each category down here below. So then on top of that, all of these reports, you can do what we call in the tool, subscribe to these reports. And so if I go back into this, underneath each template, you have the option to hit subscribe. So I could say, if I'm Eric Bombach, I could say I want to subscribe to this report and hit save. And that means every time new data gets uploaded, you get sent an email that will allow you to download that polished PDF that I showed earlier. So this report here. So you can configure various templates. Say I want to subscribe to 1, 2, 3, 4 templates, as well as the standard reports here. Then every time new data gets loaded in, I can click a button and download all the reports I need and view them in polished PDFs and send them where they need to go, etc. Um, so yeah, that's our client. Here again, this is a example of those standard reports, same client, different quote. The standard reports are valuable as is. The ability to apply filters to represent the standard report for timeframes selected is also excellent. Ability to build query and pivot table reports is also valuable, easier than core systems and internal bureaucracy to get at timely information. So what he's getting at there in the last sentence is there's no need for a middleman of the data and the data analysis. IntelliCredit, you can really put it in the hands of any banker, any member of your team, and they can find value and build reports that suit them in a way that's easy to use. And you also have access to myself and on the IntelliCredit support team to assist you in getting to the information that you want to provide. So like I mentioned, the free trial. So we had a polling question at the beginning of the session about whether you wanted us to reach out to you about the um, portfolio. And so now we have a similar question again. So if anyone would like us to reach out to you, let us know. And so just you can respond there in the poll. So then we get into Q&A. So if you guys have any questions about the IntelliCredit tool, Portfolio Analyzer, whether it's broad about the um, industry as a whole, feel free to ask those now. So I actually have some questions here. So how much data can be imported? What do people typically load for data? So there's no limit to how much data you can load in. We recommend, and I'd say 90+% of our clients do monthly. We have a couple that do more often than monthly, and then I think we have one or two that do just quarterly. Um, and I think the quarterly one is due to an arbitrary expense with their core system of extracting data, which is unfortunate. But so we recommend on a go forward basis uploading at least every month. But then when you implement the tool, you can go as far back as you would like. There's no limit. If you have 10 years of data, you're more than welcome to load 10 years of data, or even more than that in theory. So. But what's typical is I'd say people do at least a year of historical data. And I'd say on average, we look at 2 to 3 years. And that's significant when we look at growth rates. We can calculate growth rates for 1, 2, 3 years or any, or even like something in between that, 18 months or whatever it is. And then the other question is, what is the setup process like? I covered that a little bit, but it is really, really easy. It's just you send us your data. We kind of understand the data, load it into the tool, and configure settings that allow for future uploads to be just a drag and drop into the tool. So it's all easy to implement, easy to maintain. It's just about getting that Excel formatted type data file from your core system. Can I inquire down to a single relationship and loan and see its history? Yes. So, good question. So, if I wanted to know, let's say that I wanted to know, let's say there was a loan coming up for renewal, or just for example, coming up for renewal, and I wanted to see the data history of that loan. We have a search box where I could just search for a note number, and I'll just choose a random one here. So let's say hopefully I get something that is valuable here, but I'm going to choose a random note number in this dummy data. And when I click on this note number in the search box, it's going to open up a window that shows me the full data history of that individual note in IntelliCredit. So you can see there are 6 records here, and these are all the same note, but as you can see on the far left-hand side, it's the note's data as of a particular point in time. So you can see it's been a risk grade 2 for the full data history here. You can see what the balance has been like over the data history. The rate has not changed. I could look at the delinquency history. Looks like it's been 4 days delinquent twice. Fairly innocuous, decent payment history, and so on. And then in the field section here, these are just the fields that I currently have shown. I could, choose different fields to display as well. But yes, you can very easily search for a borrower, a note number, a relationship, and see the full data history across all of IntelliCredit of that particular entity or note. Yes. Okay, so that is all the questions that we have for now. So this is a summary of the IntelliCredit solution. So portfolio analyzer is what we looked at today. We also have a loan review and annual review module for teams that do internal loan review or annual review. Obviously, yeah, just about everyone does annual review. And then we also have a third-party loan review service that is exactly what you'd expect. It's high quality and very efficient. We actually use a tool, a module in the IntelliCredit application to manage and deliver that. Makes it a very efficient, easy, smooth process. And then stress testing as well as a service. Yeah, just wrapping up here. So a couple events coming up. We have this Liquidity in Focus webinar on November 12th at 2 p.m. And then a Cecil Coffee Talk with a client here, Paul Allen from Saltmarsh, on November 14th at 10 a.m. So please join us for those upcoming webinars. Um, and so two more webinars. So Q3 results, November 18th, and another coffee talk with quick analytics on November 19th. Lots of events coming up here. So thank you very much for attending. Happy to answer any questions for you after the webinar, or if you're watching the recording. You have our phone number there, or you can email us at info@intellicredit.com and or quickrate.com. And or you can email me, david.littleton@intellicredit.com. Happy to address anything you may need or any questions that you have for us. So thank you very much for joining and all the participation in the polling questions and such. Yeah, have a great Friday. Oh, so I just saw a couple questions come up that we didn't see before. So, um, can reports be emailed to employees who do not log in credentials? So, that technically speaking, in order to send them reports, you will have to give them a create a user for them, just so that we have the email to know who to email. But they do not need to log in and click it manually. They can click a link directly from their email and then verify their user, and then they'll download automatically. And then two more questions here. Sorry, these were in a different location. So if you are focused on cleaning up data in the core, is it best to wait to get items cleaned up before implementing IntelliCredit? So I would say no, and that's a genuine answer. I think that waiting in general is probably a mistake. And then on top of that, when you are cleaning up the data, IntelliCredit can help you identify things that need cleaning up. And then B, IntelliCredit does a really good job of adjusting to any changes that you may make in your core system. If you have something in a certain format or a certain coding now and then change that later, that's something we can accommodate, no problem at all. And then they say, what if our system is not set by FFIC codes but tied to purpose codes? So yeah, that's not totally uncommon at all. So um, oftentimes, probably maybe a third of the time, this is the case where there's not a actual FFIC code, there's a purpose code. So what we would do with the purpose code is we will map in the purpose code and preserve that. But then we also have our ways, we call it magic, but we have our ways of converting a purpose code using various other means and representing a call code from those purpose codes without the need of you providing that FFIC code directly. And then another question, how do I gain access to the review recording? The recording will be sent out as well as the presentation after the webinar today, most likely, or maybe next week. Yeah, so sorry about those three questions. I didn't see those till the very end here. but thank you very much for asking.